Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. I'm Priscilla. I'm the owner of A Life Full of Simplicity. Today I'll be going through my January reflections. So this is a new series that I'm going to be doing on my channel where I discuss the decks that I worked with throughout the month of like the specific month that I worked with them in, plus any extra things, maybe some YouTube videos that stood out to me, or some books that I read or started reading or maybe bought. And I'm going to start with the decks that I work with throughout the month of January. So I did have specific decks that I worked with throughout the month and specific things that I did with them. So I'm going to start with this pairing here, which is the Orange Animal Tarot plus the Sacred Force Oracle. Now, I did get this at the end of December. I had pre-ordered it. It kept getting pushed back and whatnot. So yes, the first thing that I did with it in the beginning of January was that I did deck interview. Now, I do use my own spread for my deck interviews. It just consists of like 3 questions, which are, what are you here to teach me? How can I get the best out of working with you? And a final message that I should know. So that's typically what I do for my deck interviews. So I did interview this particular deck. It's an animal deck, and the vibes of it based on that interview was really, really good. I really enjoyed it, and I knew that it would be the type of deck that I would connect well with. So I did that, and then I decided I would do my Wheel of the Year. Now, I don't always do a Wheel of the Year. They're very long, honestly, but I decided I was going to do that. So I prefer to do the theme with an Oracle deck. So I pulled a theme card from this particular deck, and then I used the tarot for the months. And I really enjoyed the reading that I did. Definitely some interesting things. A lot of it is going to be about my goals and achieving my goals and things that I need to work on throughout the year in terms of growth and in terms of achieving certain things and focuses that I need to be doing throughout the entire year, which is really me, honestly. That's usually the things that I focus on. I like to focus on my goals throughout the year. So the fact that my reading pointed towards that was a good sign for myself. I also use this deck throughout the year for dailies. Now, I did alternate between these decks and my new chapter and my new chapter tarot plus my Earthcraft Oracle, which I'll show soon. But yeah, daily readings, they're what they say. Majority of the time I pull a card from this particular deck to focus on. And I tried to do that in the morning. Wasn't always successful because I have work and stuff, so sometimes it's hard. And I would try to pull in the morning. If not, it would be like after work. There was a few days that I missed because I was just way too swamped with work, and by the time I finished, I was just way too tired to even focus on these things, which, I'm not going to be hard on myself in terms of that. It happens. Not everyone is going to be like, oh, I need to pull my daily card. You know what I mean? So majority of the time I pulled this when I could, and this was really my focus. And then after I pulled a card from this deck, then later on, or at the same time, depending on what time it was, I would pull a card from 2 cards from this deck to amplify the message or to add on to the message that I got with the Oracle. And they were really good, really good. I had 2 specific cards that were stalking me from this deck. It was the Star card, which is right here. I had this one, also the Knight of Swords, stalking me at one point. And I think that was it. Then other than that, I didn't get the same cards all the time. But yeah, the Star card was constantly following me. And in this particular deck, this card signifies personal growth and personal development, which are definitely things that I like to focus on in terms of myself and whatnot. And because of that, I ended up doing something for myself that I'm really excited about, but I'm not going to share with you now. You'll definitely see what it is further on into like February or maybe even March. So we'll see. So that definitely gave me a push to really focus on a specific goal that I have for myself. And I was really happy that it gave me that push that I needed to really get that done. And to just not be afraid of doing something that I actually want. So I'm really happy with that, and was definitely a push that I needed. Another spread that I did in the beginning of January with this particular deck here was the Year of the Lovers spread. It was by Seeds of Shakti, and it was an interesting spread. It was talking about how like there was like three specific questions. Let me look here. Yeah, 3 specific questions to answer, and you had to take a specific card for each. So for the first question, it was in regards to the lovers. So you'd need to take out the lovers, and you would need to find the lovers and find the card in front of it and behind it. And that's what those 2 cards would answer your question. So I had fun doing that. And then the second one was the World, and the third one was the Fool. So it was really about how you can navigate the Year of the Lovers, and then what you could release in terms of closing chapters with the World. So, the World is about completion. It's about closing things and then starting anew, right? So it went from the Lovers to closing to starting anew with the Fool card, talking about what awaits you in 2022. So it was definitely an interesting reading. Talked a lot about new perspectives and finding inner strength to complete like goals of mine and projects that I want to do, and just taking on and learning new perspectives of things that I might be trying to accomplish, but also not letting the past get in the way of those particular things, which was very eye-opening in my opinion. So other than that, these are one of the 2 main decks that I use throughout the month. I use them mainly for dailies and then a few spreads here and there throughout the month. Then the next 2 decks that I used together and were my primary focus for the month were the New Chapter Tarot by Catherine Briggs, published by Liminal 11, and the Earthcraft Oracle by Juliet Diaz, Lorraine Anderson, Danielle Boudou Fortune, and published by Hay House. So these decks together are absolutely beautiful. Honestly, the colors of them are fantastic. I already showed these. I just love them together. They're just really fantastic together, the colors and everything. And I use this mostly together for my daily pulls. Oh, the 6 of Swords. I swear that card haunts me. The colors are just gorgeous. Sometimes they just really worked together so well. So again, like the Sacred Forest Oracle and like the Orange Animal Tarot, I use these together for my dailies. So I would pull a card from this as my focus, and then I would amplify the message with 2 cards from this particular deck. And I did this on and off between the other 2 decks because I just wanted to switch it up sometimes. Sometimes I wanted to use these, sometimes I wanted to use those. But those were the 4, these were the 4 main decks that I used throughout the month the most. And I did get this card a lot throughout the month. Honestly, this gratitude card was stalking me from this particular deck and making sure that I was being grateful and had gratitude for the things and accomplishments that I was achieving, and not focusing too much on like the things that weren't being achieved, but more having gratitude for things that I've already accomplished, and those were already big steps for me, which is great. So yeah, in any other capacity, I didn't really use this deck that much. I mainly focused it on my dailies for this particular deck. I just wanted to have some nice earth energy throughout January, since, it's a colder month. It's still wintry, but I just wanted that kind of spring, earthy vibe a little bit earlier than, the spring, summer months. Because this is a very spring summer deck in my opinion, but I just really wanted it for this, and I find that it really pairs nicely with this particular deck in terms of the colors. So the New Chapter Tarot I actually used throughout the month. I took part in the Lionheart's January challenge, and I use this. I posted a few of the photos that I did, but then I was like, you know what? I really want to focus on doing this for myself. So I didn't share as much as I thought I would. But I did write down, like I picked up a journal specific for challenges, and I focused on doing this for the entire month. I think it was the only challenge that I've ever finished, because I'm not very good at finishing these kind of things. So yes, and I definitely enjoyed the readings. The challenge focused a lot on like goals and like what you're planning and affirmations for the month and things like that. So it was definitely an interesting time working with this deck, since this deck is very direct, in my opinion, in terms of the types of readings that I got from it. Very direct, no fluff, so it doesn't beat around the bush. It's very like, you need to focus on this, so start focusing on this, and not like, oh well, you're doing this, but maybe do this and this and that. You know what I mean? Like very like, oh, la-di-da, and not direct enough. And I prefer just being called out, honestly, if I'm not doing the things I need to be doing. So yes, a lot of focus on like gratitude, and a lot of focus on goals and working towards the projects that I want to be working towards. That was a lot of the focus for the month of January, which to me is always helpful, especially when those are the things that I work towards the most in my practice. So yeah, definitely enjoyed working with these decks, especially spending a little bit more time with this one, since I hadn't spent too much time with it in 2021. So it was definitely a nice change to spend more time with this particular deck. And I definitely want to spend more time with it in the future. So I'm definitely going to try to incorporate it again in another month to work with it again. So now let's talk about my shadow work decks, because I did do a bit of shadow work in January. So first thing I want to tell you is that this was the first deck that I purchased in January of 2021. It's the pocket edition of the Wild Unknown Tarot. And let's just focus that. There we go. And I decided to use this. I actually gave a few shadow work readings to people using this deck, because I wanted to just, I love it. I love Wild Unknown. So, and I was really happy to pick this up. It was the last copy in the bookstore, and when I saw it, I was like, it was meant for me. It was meant for me to pick up. It was meant to come into my collection. So it was meant to be. And I now have all the decks from her series that she currently has out. So I'm really happy to have this. So yeah, I gave some readings with other people in January in regards to shadow work, but I also did my own shadow work reading. And these are the 3 decks that I used in regards to shadow work. So I used the tarot, I used the 2 oracles. Now, the reading that I decided to do was the Shadow Self spread. This is the spread by Lavender. And it's literally a 4-part reading. So there's 4 questions. You have the what, the why, the how, and the where. So the what consists of what you have been ignoring or suppressing in opposition to your higher good. The why is, why have you been ignoring or suppressing this? The how is how to overcome this. And the where is where to pull strength or help from to assist you in overcoming this. So typically I would just use like the tarot, pull a card for each, and that's it, and that's all. But this time I felt a different need for this spread. So I pulled 1 card from here, 1 card from here, and 1 card from here. And it was definitely interesting to pull cards from each deck. Because you have the tarot, and then you have an animal energy, and then you have an archetype energy, which was definitely very interesting to do. And I love these cards so much. They are so great for shadow work and exploring the shadow and everything. And I just really, really enjoy working with them together. I just dropped a card. And yeah, I just really enjoyed that, working with them together. And the types of things that I had is like, this reading pretty much touched upon a lot of like being unmotivated and comparing myself to other people, being able to post consistently and post every day and just having that motivation to do that and just comparing myself to other people who do those things, right? And really the fact was that those things are not as important. The purpose or the point is really to focus or accept that I am my own person. And if I don't want to post every day, I'm not going to post every day. And I shouldn't allow that to get in my way of creating things and put pressure on myself in terms of constantly pushing myself to the point where I get overwhelmed because, I also have a day job, and it comes to the point sometimes where I'm so focused on like other things, especially with work and stuff, and then I forget to post a specific thing, and then by the time I finish work, I'm so tired that I don't even care anymore about what it is that I was supposed to post. So really this reading helped me to get into the mindset of it doesn't matter, you do you, pretty much. Was pretty much the sense that I got from that. Then I also used these 3 decks also for a Mercury retrograde reading. It was actually a self-reflection reading. So it's kind of like a Mercury retrograde shadow work spread. And this spread was by Glow with Leanne. And it was definitely an interesting spread. I did only focus on one specific question from that that spread, because it has like different ones that you can pull for. And I decided that I was only going to focus on the main lesson from this Mercury retrograde, because I had actually done another Mercury retrograde with different decks. So with these, I just wanted to do like an actual reflection. So I pulled 2 cards specifically from this deck, and then 1 animal energy and 1 archetype energy. And then I compared the cards that I received. So from the tarot, I pulled the 2 of Pentacles and the Fool. I pulled the Hunter from the archetypes, and I pulled the Crow from the animal spirits. So let me get that actually. So these are the cards that I pulled for that particular the one question that I did for this Mercury retrograde self-reflection. So what I decided to do, since it was only one question, I decided to like break it down into different things. So the Fool and the Hunter, I talked about how they have similar color palettes. So you can see the Hunter here has mostly, orange, yellow, and then some brown. The Fool also has the same thing. Then with the 2 of Pentacles and the Crow, they both have like rainbow colors. So you see the rainbow colors here in the middle. And then with the 2 of Pentacles, you see the rainbow colors in the infinity sign. And then I did the 2 tarot cards, and I talked about how it's talking about, letting go of fear that's holding you back, from doing what you want to do, right? Because the Fool is all about taking risks and stepping forward, even though you're naive because you don't know what's coming, right? It's that aspect of walking off the cliff, or walking off, or just walking and not paying attention to where you're going type of thing, like you see in traditional imagery for the Fool. And then I just need to accept that to be able to seek balance on my journey, because that seeking balance will make things a lot easier for myself in terms of, how the infinity sign is about balance and focusing on balance and whatnot. Then I focused on the archetype card and the guidebook in terms of what it's asking me. So like, what am I after? Because that's what it asks in the guidebook. And I asked myself, what am I trying to achieve from this? And I focused a bit on the tarot with it in terms of focusing on making decisions and not letting change like stop me from new beginnings and doing new things and going on that journey that I need to with the Fool type of thing. And then obviously with the Crow, it talks about seeing things more clearly. The Crow has like that psychic energy of it and that spirituality energy also from it. So I was focusing more on like being more spiritual and creative and just being able to see more clearly in terms of those aspects. And I was thinking like this reading was probably in terms of like focusing on not letting things stop me from that kind of focus in terms of my spiritual journey, in terms of my path in that regard. So it was definitely an interesting reading. I definitely enjoyed it, even though it was only one question that I answered. Just like the weaving in and out of the different cards and focusing on the colors. With these decks, I like to focus on the colors since there's not many in it. And then weaving them together is usually what I do in terms of like the shadow aspect of the cards. And that's how I particularly use them and how I enjoy using them. So this was definitely a great reading. I definitely enjoyed it. And I loved it a lot. The last thing that I did with the Wild Unknown Tarot only was my full moon reading. So I didn't get to do a new moon reading. And I was like, you know what? I'm only going to do a full moon reading. So the full moon was in Cancer. So I did a full moon in Cancer self-reflection by Glow with Leanne. She has some great spreads. Honestly, check out her Instagram because she has some great ones. It was a 6-question spread. So I did do a lot with this. And yeah, I just, pulled some cards in terms of the full moon. And a lot of the things, obviously, with Cancer is about emotional. It's a lot of emotional stuff. And I did get a lot of cup cards, and I got even the moon card, which is also an emotional card. So a lot of things was talking about empathy and focusing more on my emotions. And just doing things like that. That was like the gist of the reading that I got for the full moon. So it was also another interesting reading that I did for that as well. I really love this deck. I have a comparison video coming soon between this and the regular version. So look out for that coming soon to my channel. But yes, I do love this very much. Did I do any other readings with this? Oh, I did an Aquarius season reading by the 3 a.m. Tarot. Actually, this was an interesting one because it was like an I know, I project, I use, I am. So you pick a card to make like and I feel. Sorry, the last one was I feel. And you choose a card to make like affirmation statements. So that was really fun. Very interesting. A lot of it was talking about like emotional confidence, talking about like things that excite me, focusing on things that excite me, and focusing on goals, and just trying to focus on finding clarity and finding like the right path for myself, which was definitely interesting, I have to say. So that was the shadow worky type of readings that I did for the month that focus more on like reflection type things. And I do love using these decks specifically for that because they're more on the shadow side. You're digging deeper, in my opinion. So I love using these particular decks for that purpose. So the last 2 decks that I used for my regular Mercury retrograde reading that I did during January. So this reading I used the spread by Owl and Bones Tarot. And it was pretty much what you could rethink, what you could redo, what could be reevaluated, and what you could reconnect with. And it was very interesting because I picked 1 card from each. And I did that because I like to pair them, and I like having the added message from the Oracle deck specifically. So I would focus on the topic of the tarot. This is not even focused. There we go. I would focus on the topic of the tarot and then have the added energy from the Oracle deck. And this tarot deck is very odd. Like, I have an unboxing of this, or a flip through of it, I mean, on my channel. And it's a very strange deck. And it's very hard to pair oracle decks with this particular type of deck because they're very different. Like, this is very different and it's very hard. Like, I did find one that I thought would be really interesting. I don't have it. It's a US Games. It's sold only by Book Depository on Amazon Canada, so I would need to get it from them in order to get it because it's US Games. Never can find that on Amazon Canada. They have such issues. Amazon has such issues stocking their things. So yeah, but the color palettes are really similar, so it really worked well together. Like, honestly, it worked so well together. So what I did is I pulled 2 cards for each, and it was very eye-opening. A lot of it was talking about obstacles and challenges, things that I want to focus on in terms of like new ideas and projects and whatnot. And then reevaluating like my idea of success and what success is, and just being grateful or having gratitude for the things I've already achieved so far. And that already is success. You know, that already is successful in my opinion. And just like taking time and just having patience and just going with the flow, because you're not going to get everything overnight and it takes time to work for certain things. So it was very interesting. I did have like my last one in terms of reconnecting. I got the Ghost Dance card, which talks about ancestors. So it was talking about how like I should reconnect with ancestors and whatnot, which is very interesting because I got last year the tarot, what is it called? Tarot, I don't even know what it's called. Ancestors through Tarot, or Tarot through Ancestors, or Ancestors in Tarot, or something of the sort. I don't remember what it's called. I'll have a picture on the screen of the book. I was pretty much just doing tarot, connecting through tarot with your ancestors. And I started reading it. I haven't like finished. I did the first spread in the book last year. Very interesting. Definitely enjoyed it. So I definitely want to continue that because it was definitely enjoyable, but you'll see some of the other books that I've started tackling and whatnot in a bit. So from this reading, from this Mercury retrograde reading with these particular decks, some of the things that I noticed that came up was I got 2 7 cards, 2 10 cards, which was very interesting. So really talking about reevaluation and introspection and stuff like that. So like reflecting within. And then 10, which talks about completing cycles and moving forward or coming full circle, right? So the aspect of needing to maybe reevaluate what it means to complete something, which was definitely eye-opening to me. And then, of course, the Earth element came up a lot. I actually got a card called Earth with the 10 of Pentacles, which was really funny. It was Earth and Earth. So I found that really interesting. So definitely a lot of Earth energy in this reading, which really talks about, you know, grounding and stability and practicality and stuff like that. So just making sure that I have that stability and I'm being practical with things and what I think completing something really means. I have to be practical about that. So it's definitely eye-opening Mercury retrograde reading. I definitely enjoyed it. And the pairing of these was just fantastic. Let's focus this. It was definitely fantastic. And I just really enjoyed it very much. It's like, these are a good pairing. And the energy together was really great. So I'm definitely going to be pairing these together more often, I think. And seeing where they take me. These cards are so haunting. Like, look at that. Like, so haunting. I love it, though. It's really great. But yes, definitely enjoyed this pairing. Definitely going to be using this pairing again. 100%, because it was very interesting and a great read as well. So now I'm going to talk about one YouTube video that I definitely really enjoyed. So there was one YouTube video, as you can see on the screen, that I really enjoyed watching. So the video was 10 pieces of my soul decks of VR to The Truth and Story, which is Kelly. She's another YouTuber, by Lisa Pepez. Now, I really enjoyed watching this video. And I did end up going to see Kelly's video as well to see what it was that to see more into like the VR and the tag itself. And it was like talking about soul decks. So Lisa talks about like the different decks that she considers her soul deck, but in specific categories. So you have like the center, you have like the healing, you have like the shadow, you have like the inner child, like all those kind of different pieces of that make up your soul. And I thought this was an amazing concept. It actually got me thinking of what decks in my own collection would fall into those categories and what categories I would change. So I'm thinking about actually doing my own video or my own VR in terms of this. I just want to rewatch Kelly's video again just to just like to think about it a little bit more and to see what other, maybe if there's something I want to change or something like that. But I like the structure that Lisa had in terms of actually structuring it accordingly, or structuring it in a structured way. I like structure, so I really enjoyed that part of it in terms of that aspect. So I'll probably do a similar thing, but obviously I'm going to change some of those because obviously she used like unicorn soul and I don't really care too much for unicorns. So though I do have a friend that would probably use that in there if they ever had a YouTube channel because they own like, I don't even know how many unicorn decks. It's great. So yeah, unicorns are cute. I don't even think I have any. Do I have any unicorn decks? Like I have decks with like a unicorn or two in it, but like full-fledged, fully unicorn, not really. So I would probably change a few, probably one more earth-based or plant or animal, because I definitely love plant and animal decks. That's definitely something I love, and definitely would be part of my soul. So I'm thinking about changing it up a bit. I definitely love the aspect of like a shadow deck, obviously, or a shadow soul or whatever, because I do a lot of shadow work. I have 3 particular decks that would fit in that category. So I don't know, I would have to narrow it down. So I think I'm going to rewatch both videos again and just sit down and make a list of like what I would have as like pieces to my own soul, and then do another video, like a VR to that at some point later on. Is definitely my goal to do. But this was definitely an interesting video. I will link both videos down below. I highly suggest you check them out because they're really great. So now let's talk about books. So I started reading these a while ago. If you've seen like my TBR videos from last year or whatever, I started reading these a while ago. But in the month of January, I actually made a little bit more progress with them. So this first one is The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. This is a novel in regards to our particular witch who is an ever witch. She can control every single season. So the concept of this is that the season you're born in is the powers that you have. So it's you can only control the season you were born in type of thing. But being an ever witch is actually very rare. She's the only ever witch in her, I guess, since the last one, which was like hundreds of years before she was born type of thing. So being an ever witch is very rare and is a great responsibility type of thing. So I like the concept of this book because it talks about climate change in the sense that witches are trying to work with humans. So humans know about witches in this particular fantasy. And witches are helping control the weather because of climate change. But a lot of witches are dying because climate change is starting to get too much. And she's the key to everything. And she's not in control of her powers. And it's very interesting. There's also a love story There's kind of a bit of a love story in here, and it's really about acceptance and things like that. And so far, I really love it. I've been tabbing it, as you can see. Quite a number of tabs. I have tabbed a lot of the quotes in the beginning. So each chapter has like a quote in the beginning. For example, chapter 1, being an Everwitch means two things. You are powerful, you are dangerous. A season for everything. And I definitely love that. And some of them I really love, so I tab them. And then there were some scenes that I really enjoyed that I've been tabbing. So I did continue this a bit. I am now at chapter 22. And I'm really enjoying this so far. And I really want to see how it ends. Honestly, I think this would make a great movie. Someone make this into a movie because this is fantastic. Or a TV show or something. I don't know. But yes. So I'm hoping to finish it in February. Fingers crossed that I actually can finish it. If so, you'll hear about it in February's reflections. Then we have A Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. This is definitely an interesting one. Very political. I have tabbed it a bit. I have made progress with this as well. I'm now at chapter 18. And I have been liking it. I do like Normal People a little bit more than this. I haven't read Conversation with Friends yet, and I do have it. My mom got it for me for my birthday, but I haven't started it yet. So I want to finish this one first before I pick that one up. So again, I'm hoping to finish this by the end of February. Also, I'm like halfway. I'm halfway with both of them, I believe. Yeah, halfway with both of these books. And I've been really enjoying them. Very interesting. This one is fantasy young adult, I believe. This is adult and it's contemporary. It's a love story. So, yes. So these were the two novels that I was reading. Then in January, I picked up these two books. Pathworking the Tarot by Lisa Robertson. This is a Llewellyn publication. And then I picked up the 78 Degrees of Wisdom, A Tarot Journey to Self-Awareness. This is a Wiser Books publication. And this is by Rachel Pollock. So I started reading this. I haven't gotten far in it. I'm on page 17. So far, very interesting. I'm excited to keep reading this. I haven't started this, but I did flip through it. And there was something weird that I noticed about this particular book. Like something really strange. In the court cards, there's no King of Pentacles. Where are the kings? This is the queens. Kings. So we have the King of Swords here. King of Wands. King of Cups. And that's it. Then it goes into intentional, intuitive. There's no King of Pentacles, which I found really strange. And I thought it was really funny. How can you forget a king? You know, like, it's a little weird. I did do a story on this. I tagged both Lisa and Llewellyn. Neither of them answered me. And I made a joke also about the fact that the King of Pentacles was missing. I actually created this photo. I'll put a picture here of the King of Pentacles on a milk carton. And then he's missing. And I tagged them both in it and they never responded. But it's hilarious. It's so funny. Yeah, neither of them answered me. If you know why the King of Pentacles is missing in this book, let me know in the comments because I have no idea. No one will tell me. So, yes. Other than that, from what I flipped through quickly, it seems like an interesting book. Just sucks that one of the kings is missing because, you know, it would have been nice information to have if you're actually working with the cards. But hey, whatever. So those were my January reflections. Let me know in the comments below what you thought. What kind of decks did you use this in this past month in January? I'd love to know. And yeah, just we can have a conversation in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Turn on that bell so you can be notified every time I post a brand new video. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up as it's greatly appreciated. Thanks so much and have a great day.